She thought no one would ever know. A quiet trip on the water, a man too old to fight back, and a heart filled with greed darker than the waves beneath them. In those final moments before he disappeared into the sea, he wasn't just a black father-in-law. He was a man who trusted the very family now plotting against him. But what she didn't realize was that her cruel act was only the beginning. Because the ocean keeps secrets. Just not forever. And when the truth finally rose to the surface, it exposed something far uglier than greed. How did everything unravel so quickly? Before we dive deeper, take a moment to hit like if you're ready to uncover the shocking truth, and leave a comment sharing what you would do in Arthur's place. Trust me, you would rather not scroll past this one. Before everything fell apart, he lived a quiet life built on routine, dignity, and the kind of patience only age can teach. Arthur Cole was a retired Navy mechanic, a black man who had spent decades on the water but never imagined the ocean would one day become the place of his greatest betrayal. In his small coastal town, he was known for fixing boats, helping neighbors, and moving through life with a calmness that came from surviving far worse storms. His relationship with his son had always been steady, built on respect and sacrifice. But the new addition to the family, the woman who had married into it, carried an uneasiness Arthur could never shake. Beneath her polite smile, there was a coldness he felt long before he understood why. She had come from a world where money was everything, where legacy meant power, and where Arthur's presence was nothing more than an obstacle standing between her and the future she wanted. Still, Arthur tried to remain hopeful. He trusted the bond of family, believing that time and kindness could mend whatever invisible wall she had built between them. But subtle moments kept appearing, small signs that something darker was growing behind her resentment. A sudden interest in her husband's finances, whispered frustrations about inheritance, and quiet glances she thought no one noticed. And then came the day she suggested a peaceful boat ride, the kind Arthur once loved. A simple moment, a calm ocean, and a chance to reconnect, or so he thought. What Arthur didn't know was that this would be the last time anyone saw him alive in the way he had always been. The tide was turning long before he realized it. The morning sun reflected off the calm waves, hiding the tension simmering beneath the surface. Arthur had trusted the invitation, believing it was a simple boat ride to reconnect with the family. But as soon as they set off, subtle signs made him uneasy. She directed the course with a sharp precision, her eyes flicking toward him more often than necessary, a thin smile masking something far colder. The wind carried her laughter, but it sounded hollow, rehearsed, a sound that didn't belong to the woman who was supposed to be family. With each gentle rocking of the boat, Arthur felt the distance growing between them. He remembered how she had complimented his careful navigation, praised his experience, and then, almost casually, mentioned the inheritance. At first, it sounded harmless, an idle remark meant to provoke conversation. But the words settled like a weight on his chest. He tried to laugh it off, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. Her husband seemed oblivious, chatting away as though nothing were wrong, leaving Arthur to face the undercurrent alone. Hours passed, and Arthur realized that every subtle gesture, the way she adjusted the ropes, the way she leaned toward her husband whenever he spoke, the way she watched the horizon as if calculating, was a silent signal. He was no longer just a guest. He was a target, a man standing between her and a future she believed was hers by right. The beauty of the ocean suddenly felt oppressive, the waves a constant reminder that even the calmest surface could hide deadly depths. The first sign of danger came when the boat slowed near the open water, and she suggested he check something at the edge. As he stepped closer, his heart tightened. Something in her expression told him the event was no longer about family or conversation. She had planned this carefully, methodically, every detail to isolate him, to make him vulnerable. Fear prickled at his skin, not the ordinary fear of a rough sea, but a deep, primal dread that someone so close could betray him in such a cold, calculated way. Arthur's mind raced. Could he reason with her? Could he appeal to the man beside her? But the subtle glances, the cold determination in her eyes, and the way the wind carried her words like a threat made it clear, nothing would stop what she intended. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, to protect himself, yet the open water offered no escape, the boat a cage with only one exit, one that he didn't yet see. And as the boat rocked gently, the sun dipping toward the horizon, a chilling realization struck him. The person he had trusted most in this family, the woman who should have been his ally, had already decided his fate. The ocean, once a place of work, comfort, and peace, was about to become the stage for a betrayal so profound it would leave the town, the family, and even him questioning everything they thought they knew about greed, race, and the cost of blind trust. Before we see what happens next, make sure you stay until the end. Every moment matters, and you won't want to miss how Arthur faces this unimaginable betrayal. Watching until the last second will make the full picture hit even harder. The boat drifted farther from shore, the water reflecting the fiery colors of the setting sun, hiding the darkness beneath. Arthur's heart raced, every instinct screaming that something was terribly wrong. She moved with a cold precision, guiding him closer to the edge, each step heavier than the last. The waves lapped gently against the hull, mocking the storm building inside him. This was no accident. This was betrayal made flesh, a cruel act planned with patience and greed. He realized, too late, that her smile had been a mask, her words a trap. The husband remained oblivious, laughing at some trivial story, leaving Arthur alone with her intent. The realization hit him like a hammer. He was not family to her, not a man to be respected, but an obstacle. The ocean, his lifelong companion, now became a stage for malice. The very hands that had once celebrated his life were poised to end it. Arthur tried to step back, to find safety, but the boat's limited space offered none. She leaned forward with a calculated calmness, her eyes flashing with determination. Every second stretched into an eternity. Fear and disbelief collided inside him. How could someone so close, someone meant to love, decide to destroy him so coldly? Every memory of kindness, every moment of trust, was drowned in the knowledge of what was coming. The waves whispered secrets he couldn't escape, a cruel symphony accompanying the betrayal. And then it happened, the shove, the loss of footing, the sudden plunge into icy water. Shock froze his body, terror seized his lungs, and the betrayal burned hotter than the sun's fading light. The world above became a blur, faces, smiles, greed, all melting into the endless indifferent blue. He fought to breathe, to survive, to rise, but the moment was brutal, raw, and unrelenting. The ocean swallowed the scream he couldn't release, and in that instant, the truth became undeniable. The cruelty he faced was only the surface. Below it swirled something far more dangerous, something that would reach beyond the waves and leave the world questioning what family, loyalty, and humanity truly meant. Would he make it out alive? Or would this act of greed and racism forever claim what was his? The water settled, leaving ripples that reflected more than just sunlight. They reflected the harsh truth of betrayal and greed. Arthur emerged from the ocean, shaken, bruised, and forever changed. The physical pain was fleeting compared to the sting of realization. Someone who should have protected him, embraced him, had instead used his trust as a weapon. The injustice was personal, but it was also a mirror of a world where color, age, and status could turn kindness into vulnerability. The incident left scars beyond the skin. Arthur's sense of safety, the faith he placed in family, and the belief in the goodness of those closest to him were all tested, stretched, and forever altered. Yet, in that same moment of despair, a subtle clarity emerged. He saw the patterns of greed and prejudice, recognized the warning signs that had been ignored, and understood the courage it would take to move forward, not in bitterness, but in vigilance and resilience. The story didn't end on the waves. It reached the shore, where whispers of what had happened spread through the town, sparking conversations, outrage, and reflection. It became a symbol, a small but piercing spotlight on the cruel intersections of racism, entitlement, and family betrayal. Arthur's experience was not unique. It was a reminder that injustice often hides in plain sight, that those who seem safe or familiar can sometimes be the very source of harm. If Arthur's story moved you, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss stories that reveal the truth about human nature, injustice, and survival. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and stay connected. There are more stories coming that will make you question everything you thought you knew. And so, the question lingers for everyone watching. How often do we overlook the quiet cruelties around us? How many times do we trust without questioning, love without awareness, or stand by while greed and prejudice dictate actions? Arthur's story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths and recognize that change begins not just in grand gestures, but in the vigilance, empathy, and courage of ordinary people. Because in the end, surviving the ocean was not just about escaping the waves, it was about facing the tides of injustice, seeing them clearly, and choosing to rise, stronger and wiser than before.